What's up, everybody? Here and here. Today, I wanted to go through a champ that I feel like I see talked about a lot, and not a lot of clarity around, how good he is or where people use him. So, I'm gonna talk about Lightsworn today. So, I'm gonna pull him up here. I just pulled him recently and started building him, so he's not quite where I want him to be, but the gear that I have on him can kind of be like directionally interesting for folk. So to start off, go through his skills. His A1 is 3-hit auto with a decreased turn meter. His A2 has a decreased attack and a decreased speed. And his A3 is an AoE defense up with a revive mechanic to it as well. So where is he useful? I mostly see him talked about for Clan Boss, but he's also pretty good at Fire Knight as well. Um, and we do talk about him for Clan Boss. When is he actually good? And I think the biggest thing to cover here is that I see a lot of high level players using him. He's in a lot of top Clan Boss teams in terms of damage that I've seen, but he's definitely not a champ that I'd recommend for newer players looking for their first attack down. I wanted to kind of go into depth on why that is, so you don't build out this champ when you see a 35 million damage nightmare key that uses this champ, and then you try him out and it doesn't work because your attack down falls off. So, talk a little bit about the attack down. Fully booked, it is a 3-turn cooldown and a 2-turn uptime. Uh, so, for most people, this does not count as having an attack down. In the late stages of Clan Boss, you lose your attack down for 1 turn, your entire team is wiped. So, because it only lasts 2 turns only lasts 2 turns and on 3-turn cooldown, you basically need to have enough speed on Lightsworn in order to keep it up 100% of the time. And even then, you have to be really confident that your accuracy is kind of above the normal thresholds because you get 1 resist and you need 3 more turns to put it back up there. Of course, the one exception to this rule, which may be one of the main places that we see him played, is teams that have a debuff extender. So if you have someone like Warlord or especially Vizier, then you don't have to worry about this. You put it up once at the beginning and you kind of forget about it. So how else can you kind of get to that is by having really, really high speed. So I think I could be wrong on this, but it's around 220 speed for Nightmare Clan Boss in order to be able to kind of lap the boss once every 3 turns and keep this up all the time. And again, you got to be kind of mindful of when the boss turn ticks and when your turns tick, so you're not applying it, right at the end of a boss cycle and then it falls off at the beginning of the next one. So why is he worth it? We're going through all this information on how he can situationally fill this role of an attack down. Why kind of go through the struggle versus just do someone who's reliable like Tayrel or Padma or Altan? So the main thing is his other skills. So his A1, as you notice, is a 3-hit auto. So out of the attack down champs, I'm fairly certain he's the only attack down champ with a 3-hit A1. Tayrell's had 2-hit, Payma's a 2-hit, Maneater's a 1-hit, Alton's a 1-hit. Um, and so that just means that with Giant Slayer, he's going to be putting out more damage. In Lifesteal gear, he has more consistent lifesteal because he has a higher chance to proc a Giant Slayer hit than a War Master hit would have. Uh, and then also his A3. So being able to bring on a 4-turn cooldown, defense up, and a 5 on death buff. Where this really shines, I think, is if your clan boss team has another champion with the increased attack buff or increased defense buff. So if you have someone like Steel Skull, Martyr, Thenasil, then you can just basically rotate Lightsworn's buff and the other champ's defense buff and keep up a defense buff for the entire run, which can make you live a lot longer in conjunction with the attack down. So again, higher kind of team comp or gear check in order to use him, but he outputs more damage. He's more consistent in life stealing because of a 3-hit A1, and he has this defense up buff and revive on death buff. So he brings a bit more utility than other attack down champs. And as far as like the damage goes, I see him pretty in line with Padma in damage. I'm doing a little bit more testing to see what I can do to see if he brings a little bit more damage since he does have the A1. But I've seen a lot of people when you compare Tayrel or Alton to Lightsworn, he's doing maybe 2 or 3 million more damage on a long clan boss run because of the 3-hit A1. Cool. And I'll go through real quick. I'll show him off in Fire Knight. This definitely is not like my best setup dungeon, but he has brought a little bit more speed and consistency to my team. So here we have Draco, Skullcrown, Arbiter, Coldheart, and Lightsworn. We don't have a ton of high auto attacking champs here. It's not like I'm just stacking all 4-hit, 3-hit A1s. I find that it's important to have those, but also the waves are something that I struggle with to get through fast. And Skullcrown, if you don't have her, you can build her with super low HP, and all the minions will try to attack her first. And then you take the defensive talent for counterattack with a lifesteal set, and she basically just takes up a lot of threat in this fight. So you'll see a couple of times where she gets targeted, and we'll just counterattack and heal all the way back up. Also, my Cold Heart's pretty squishy. I have this one that I'm running here, has lifesteal set and has uh, Giant Slayer. This was like my old Cold Heart that I originally used for Clan Boss a long time ago. But the combination of Lightsworn and Arbiter make it so that she stays alive and can get some turn meter depletes on the boss, as well as the HP regen block is also super helpful. So I recently switched up this team. Um, Before I was running a super tanking team with like Drexstar and Razin, and then some similar people to here. I made some changes to try and bring in the Cold Heart and the Lightsworn, basically thinking that between adding Arbiter and adding Lightsworn, I should be able to keep this Cold Heart alive. And then been testing out Draco recently. I didn't really think about him at first because he's a weak affinity, but bringing the AoE weaken and defense down on all the waves really makes it so I get through the waves faster. So he's not as useful on the actual boss here, but you can see I got to the Fire Knight in like a minute and a half, and before it was taking me like 4 or 5 minutes with a tankier team. I think when I first did my Arbor missions, uh, I was taking like maybe 8 minutes for each clear. So while we fight this boss, I'm going to go through something a little different that I'm doing with my Lightsworn. So right now on my clan boss team, I'm running Draco, Razin, High Cotton as a speed leader, Thenacil, and Padma. So I have an attack down already, but I pulled Draco recently, and Razin on my team before was great because he was a 3-hit A1. He has this buff strip if the boss is below 50%, and he brings the defense down a weekend. Now that I have Draco, my main poisoner, also bringing those debuffs, looking to see if there's someone else that I can bring in to replace Razin that has some unique utility. So when I pulled Lightsworn, I know a lot of people use him as an attack down champ when you get the high enough break points in order to run him as that, like I mentioned earlier. But I'm curious to see if he'll be a worthwhile addition to my team, just for the defensive buffs and also doing some decent damage since he does have the 3-hit A1. Razin on my current clan boss team can contribute somewhere between 4 to 6 million damage on Nightmare, uh, and most of that is just due to his 3-hit A1 and the amount of time that I live. Since the majority of my team's damage comes from Draco as my main poisoner, if I ever get unlucky and he dies early in the fight, it's pretty much GG for that run for me. So Lightsworn will be able to add consistent defense up buff combined with my Thenacil, so they're both around a 3 or 4 turn cooldown, 2 turn buff duration, so you can alternate the two of them and have pretty much a perma defense up, which is really useful in the late stages of the clan boss. And then also for those stages where it's like going to be a risky hit, using Lightsworn to throw up that revive on death buff, which can get you a couple more turns with your Draco late game. So excited to test this out and see how it works. If nothing else, he'll be a good addition to my Fire Knight team. If you're doing anything different with him, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Thanks, y'all.